Reminds me of Snoopy.
Welcome to the Final Hour podcast, coming to you from the original Living Word Christian Center out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I hope you enjoyed the music that we did. We did that in the studio a few days
Jeremiah
ago.
Dupree.
Yeah, no, I was saying that we got together and played the instruments and things like that.
Wow, how talented.
It was so good. We like to do a little jazz jam every now and then.
Yes. We try to get together a couple times a week for about...
Let's see if we can play that in Living Word's elevator.
I think it's already playing.
6 seconds up to the second floor.
If you're still with us...
We just started.
I know. It was a rough start.
We're playing it. You got to throw them a curveball every now and then. Listen.
I'm Lonaiah Farrell.
And I'm Jim Hammond.
Jim, you already said that.
Oh,
I'm also Jim Hammond.
Okay.
we're twins.
Jim and Jimmy today.
And you have Jerry producing.
Hello.
And we didn't really make up. That's Jerry's music that comes from his board. So
I don't think anyone really believed that you were musically inclined and could play.
they may have. They saw her. They saw the
Just 'cause that
moves.
that doesn't equate to play music, but okay.
Listening to music and
There are so many
moving to
musicians
music.
who can play music but can't
It's
dance.
true. Interesting.
Like Justin Bieber, not a good dancer. Like there is a reason he doesn't dance. Just saying.
Yeah, and neither is the demonic.
Taylor Swift,
Taylor
no,
Swift.
she cannot dance.
And so
She can do some good foot stomps and twirls.
I keep saying demonic because they do chants at
They
her
did.
concerts. No one understands what she's saying, and they're all dressed up like in cloaks.
They did do a witch.
So they right in the middle of the concert. But that's Taylor
I
Swift.
prayed for her soul and the souls of everyone in there at that time.
Well, we are in our 72nd episode. And so
Moving on.
of the Final Hour podcast, we are coming up on a year and a half here. Within about 6 weeks, it'll be a year and a half. So please subscribe. Thank you if you've already subscribed.
Hey, can I say something? We got a really good email from Daniel this morning. His wife has been telling a bunch of people about our podcast, and somebody had hit her back and said that they listened to 8 episodes in one day. And he's like, "You guys are bingeable," and I was like, "Thank you."
That's great news.
Yeah,
Maybe not the first 25 are bingeable, but
I don't know.
that's what they were. They started at number 1.
Yeah.
well, that's cool.
We just
Jim, have a
hit
little faith.
1,800
They're going to
subscribers
be
little
recently.
pleasantly
faith in
surprised as they move through.
They will.
the
We get
catalog.
better. My face isn't like flaming red anymore. And
Hey, and we don't have the plant. I'm thinking.
oh, that ugly plant.
That
No,
ficus
I missed
was
the plant.
beautiful.
it was a ficus.
I don't know. No, it was like a fake fiddly fig.
Maybe I'll bring a
Fiddly fig.
hydrangea from my flower
fig.
garden in here next week for the table.
Okay. For a succulent,
Yeah.
which I always feel weird saying.
Succulent. I hope no ants crawl out of it. I'm not a flower person. They actually like bother me.
just a
And all my
cactus.
sisters were like sending pictures of their hydrangeas, and I was like, I sent them one of mine. It's like this big, huge, beautiful thing, and I was like, I literally ignore it.
Yeah.
Never look at it. Never water it.
We have some of those.
Yeah, and it's like thriving out there. For all you plant people,
Yes.
hey, people care.
Yes, they do. Mm-hmm. I speak the life of God into my 3 plants. But anyways,
Do you water them daily, Jim?
water them daily. Yeah, they're outside in front.
That is
front.
dedication.
Well, I know you remember the message you taught about the water and speaking to the water.
Yes.
That one always sticks with me. You know, it's like
You know that
if you don't really believe in the power of your words, just look at that simple. It has nothing to do with Christianity necessarily, but it's such a cool experiment that
What was
maybe
it?
you want to talk about it.
Way back in the 90s, a Japanese scientist by the
Yeah.
name of Masuro, Masuro Emoto, did experiments saying that our bodies are made up of 80% water. And he did
less.
all these experiments. He's got pictures, everything. Huge experiments where they spoke to large bodies of water. He'd bring large groups of people. And basically, it's proven scientifically that your words, your body hears what you're saying about yourself. Okay.
Because then
the bodies of your children or your animals.
We did the experiment with our kids. We had a good water and a bad water, and they'd go say whatever mean they wanted to say to their siblings to this. And the dirty water was just dirty after like 2 weeks. And they remember it. That was like 10 years ago.
But then other part of the experiment was they froze some of the water.
Yeah.
And the water that was spoken to well and uplifting would have really beautiful crystalline structure. But the ill-spoken words water was
chaotic.
Chaotic.
It created
no beauty at all.
Almost bad things it created through its crystals. And so
the power of the tongue.
The Bible's very clear on that. But today we want to look at two different books here over the next this will probably be 3 podcasts looking at Ryan Pitterson's judgment of the Nephilim. And then he follows that with a second book called The Final Nephilim. And it's amazing revelation. I guarantee you these books are revelation out of the Bible that you've never heard. And Ryan Pitterson is what you would call a professional Bible researcher, the author of these 2 books with an emphasis on ancient Hebrew thought and theology. The author of these books received a BA from the University of Rochester, and he got his JD degree from the Columbia University of Law. And so the judgment of the Nephilim is an Amazon #1 bestseller.
Oh.
And like I said, he follows that book with another called The Final Nephilim. In his second book, The Final Nephilim, he rolls the return of these Nephilim into the connection with the Antichrist. And as you know, we just did 3 weeks on the AI Antichrist connection. And I tend to think that the AI thing is part of the Nephilim, and we don't know how that looks, but it just seems like more and more information is coming out, and it's not coincidental that we ran across this guy's 2 books that are exploding. The Nephilim, if you don't know what they are fallen angels that fell with Satan. It's detailed in Genesis 6 that these fallen angels had sexual relations with human women, and their offspring, the Nephilim, were half humans, half fallen angels. That's where you get giants in the Bible. And it's where you get all these Greek mythologies. Achilles. I've read 3 books on Achilles. I read a lot of that type of stuff. I'm careful because it can be dark. But Achilles was half. He was a Nephilim. He was half and half God, half human. I believe the Greek gods, the Viking gods,
the Greek myths really aren't myths.
I don't believe they are.
I don't believe they are.
I believe it was Nephilim. I believe it was fallen angels. I believe it was just passed down through the legends for so long.
Well, that's what it says, like in the Bible, the men of old, or the renowned
men. It says it. We're gonna read it in a second. Men of renown.
Yeah,
I thought immediately of Achilles. Right, and what the
even
devil,
like Hercules.
Yeah, all of them. All of them. What the devil was doing when these angels had children with human women, he was in essence trying to prevent the birth of Christ. And this is where it all starts in Genesis 3:15. I will put enmity between thee and the woman. God is talking to Satan. Between thy seed and her seed, it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So God is telling Satan, this is how I'm going to destroy you in the end. And so Satan's like, I've got to corrupt the seed of the woman. I've got to corrupt, in essence, of the human race.
Right.
I've got to corrupt that seed. And so this is what we have him doing. And I know most of you have heard this. We've been on this. But in case you're just tuning into this for the first time, Genesis 6:1-2, it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, daughters were born unto them. Notice it calls men there. And when men began to multiply. Number 2, verse 2, that the sons of God, those are fallen angels, if you study it out, saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, they took them wives of all which they chose. And we see these fallen angels. These are not men. These are angels that have fallen, that fell with Satan. Bible calls them sons of God sometimes. And this is what that produces when they took human wives. Genesis 6:4, there were giants in the earth in those days. Also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, okay, and they bare children to them, and the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown.
Yeah.
All right? And then furthermore, I know you've all heard this, but just in case you're, just tuning in, the Lord in Genesis 6:7 says, I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I've even made them.
Yeah.
But Noah found
Sad.
grace in the eyes of God. If he did, that means he wasn't a perfect guy, because he had to have grace. And these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man, perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. Perfect in the Hebrew language that this was written in doesn't mean perfect acting. It means his blood was completely uncorrupted.
Yeah. Right.
That's what that word perfect means. So this is not what we see as the Old Testament God the Father instituting his wrath on mankind and sending the flood. He was, you could say, what he was doing by sending the flood was rescuing what we have now at the cross. Right. He was rescuing our salvation by sending the flood.
Right.
And so this is why you can see when you get into the book of Joshua, and we'll explain how the Nephilim hung around after the flood, how they popped up again in giant form after the flood. But
Because I've always wondered that, honestly.
The question, I've heard it a lot. And this is one reason we're doing this, is because we had that question. And isn't it interesting? This book comes out. God telling Joshua again and again and again, exterminate whole civilizations, every man, woman, child, animal of those people, right? Well, we're going to go show you through Ryan Pitterson's book, Judgment of the Nephilim, why exactly God had Joshua and his armies completely exterminate whole civilizations. So this is all about Satan trying to corrupt the bloodline of Jesus.
Right.
And let me just make it really clear. By the time God flooded the world, in the book of Genesis, chapter 7, Satan had succeeded in polluting the human bloodline to the point where Noah and his family were the last remaining humans on earth.
Must have been a really dark world.
Right.
Oof.
They were of pure human blood. They were the last ones. And Genesis 6 will tell you that God regretted, we just read this, creating humanity. At that point, the reason he regretted creating humanity is because it really wasn't human anymore. All right? They were part demon. And we know from Genesis 6, where it says Noah was perfect in his generations, this is saying his blood was still 100% human.
Yeah.
That Hebrew word perfect is the same term used for the sacrificial lambs in the Levitical law. Noah's genetics were without taint of the Nephilim seed coming from them having sexual relations with human women. This is what Ryan Pitterson really proves in the genealogies of the Bible. Here's the problem with the whole thing. If God flooded the earth and cleared it of all these half people with tainted blood, how is Joshua having to fight a bunch of giants and taking the land God promised Israel? So you see giants even past the point where David killed Goliath. Goliath had brothers that were later killed by David's mighty men.
Right. Yep.
So a big question from people is where does the second group of Nephilim come from if the flood cleared them all out, right?
Wait, do you think that's why God used David's line then to have Jesus? Because he killed the end of the Nephilims? Like maybe that's why God used David's line for Jesus. Wasn't Jesus born out of David's?
Yes.
He was.
Just
It was
wondering.
part of a continuation of the crushing of the head.
Right? Wouldn't that make sense?
I think if nothing else, it protected the line, because the Goliath and his family were part of the Philistines, and the Philistines were oppressing, or at least opposing, the Israel at that point. So it was so important for Israel to not lose and be under Philistine control at that point. So otherwise, you don't know what could have happened with that line of David.
Do you know the whole Philistine completely just disappeared? Like archaeology, they found their little cities and things. They had 5 kings, that they would get together and fight. They were combined, ruled under 5 different kings. But I just saw a whole show on that, whole documentary, where they think it was the Assyrians, like just slowly chipped away at them.
Interesting.
And eventually completely exterminated them, where the Assyrians carried off northern Israel and dispersed them.
Right.
But they're no one's sure. They find their cities and villages and things like that. But
well, it's interesting because there's a lot of documents from American history over the last 250 years where they start getting into burial mounds, like in Ohio, in Tennessee, in Kentucky. There's burial mounds and the remains are giants. They're over 10 feet tall.
Yeah,
crazy.
You can see that this is documented. This is in American history, but it's definitely been kind of swept away over.
Oh, and they don't want that because that goes against the Bible. They're not going to promote that.
Right.
They're not going to. That's not going to be.
But you can find that very simply by googling the burial mounds in the Midwest. Starting in Tennessee, Ohio,
Well, I feel like
Wisconsin. I think maybe Wisconsin too.
Well, that would make sense because there's some weird stuff that happens in Wisconsin.
I feel like Ryan Pitterson proves it in Judgment of the Nephilim that the DNA of the Nephilim passed through the flood, got through the flood on the ark, on Noah's ark.
Interesting.
The Nephilim blood was on Noah's ark, and he cites the biblical evidence to support it in his 2 books. Can we just make sure we hit those again?
Ryan Pitterson.
Yes, Judgment of the Nephilim and the final Nephilim. All right,
You can order these right on Amazon.
and
I might.
Listen,
Sounds interesting.
You should.
it prophesies in Daniel
so
that the knowledge, and look at how the knowledge is increasing. I listened to old series on Revelation, the book of Revelation, because I'm teaching a series on that now, so I'm trying to get as much information as I can, and it's amazing what was being taught on the book of Revelation in the year 2000 compared to what's being taught now.
Definitely.
The knowledge that's just increased. But you look at these past post-flood giants who Joshua was fighting, even before Joshua, because you can find the people called Emims, E-M-I-M-S, in Genesis 14 running around during Abraham's time. You can find the Anakims in Joshua 14.
Sons of Anak.
Yes, the Anakims actually held Hebron. We'll be on that. Hebron is one.
Hebron is
It's
amazing.
the most historic. Boy, they have good pizza there too.
Ooh.
They do have good pizza. I forgot. Oh,
It's
except
New York
one
style.
time, they put like tuna fish on my pizza. Ugh.
Anyways, we'll be on Hebron.
Don't get that pizza. It was
and it's
nasty.
just amazing. The reason it's hotly contested with the Palestinians. It's a worldwide. It's the world's concern who holds Hebron, and right now, the high ground is the Palestinians, and the Jews are still on the lower end. It's like a big, like a miniature mountain. Hebron.
It's an interesting
With a lot
place.
of hills surrounding it, but we're going to be
excited. I'm excited to see that.
The Anakim giants were there, and that's the first place David ruled from down the road from Joshua's days. He ruled 7 years and 6 months from Hebron. Well, when we're looking at the giants that come after the flood in the land of Canaan, When Joshua was fighting those wars, the Anakims, another group called the Zanzamims, the Amims, Ryan Pitterson, this is all, guys are all in the Bible, trace the lineage of these three people groups back to, you can do this in the Bible, Canaan himself. Canaan was the grandson of Noah. So these guys come from the grandson of Noah.
Interesting.
All right?
Yeah.
Well, how does that happen? The 7 nations that Joshua went after in the book of Joshua, many years of war, Joshua had to fight. Notice, Joshua died at a much younger age than Moses did. Yeah. And I think it was because it was his career. As soon as he took over, he was fighting wars. All these nations came from Canaan, the grandson of Noah. And what Ryan Pitterson is saying is the Nephilim DNA passed through for sure. He knows through the wife of Noah's son Ham.
Yeah.
The woman that was married to Noah's son Ham, who was on the ark, had Nephilim blood. Revelation alert. Revelation alert.
It's like the 3 woes. The 3 woes in heaven. Do you remember that?
It's like angels singing. Listen.
Yeah.
Oh,
Silent.
That's
Okay, it took Jim a little bit there.
Okay. Yeah, I should know that. Look.
John didn't get it. Okay, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
How dare you?
It's been a day.
Has it?
Yeah, I think so.
All I know is this coffee is making me sweat.
Is it?
Yes.
It's hot in this room.
So.
Sorry.
Velvet Hammer, guys.
Velvet Hammer coffee.
Is
if you don't go to Kingdom Coffee over in Maple Grove and you have to make coffee, if I don't have Kingdom Coffee,
Velvet Hammer's his go-to.
Yes.
And John comes in and steals a couple cups a day.
I don't steal.
We offer willingly.
This kind of stuff reminds me of like Jonathan Kahn kind of revelation.
Yeah.
Like not the same revelation, but this like look at the revelation that's coming out here, right? Jonathan Kahn with the books that he's written, the latest one, Return of the Gods. Now this about the Nephilim, and what Ryan Pitterson is saying to do is look at the genealogies of the patriarchs for a start, and then at the flood. Look at this. You had extended lifespans at the flood, and now you will see that most men had their first son or daughter up around the ages of 60 to 70 years old.
Wow.
Now think about this. The Bible is very clear on Noah. He doesn't have any of his 3 sons until he's 500 years old.
Okay.
We all know Noah boarded the ark at 600. The flood hit when Noah was 600. Okay. And so Genesis 6:3.
So Noah was smart.
Well, maybe not. Look, the Lord said, "My spirit shall not always strive with man, that he also is flesh, yet his day shall be 120 years." So when Noah was 480 years old, okay, God told Noah at this point, "You've got 120 years left before I judge the earth." Right? So then Noah had the first of his sons after the warning that God gave him on the 120-year time limit.
Can you imagine? I was telling Jim this yesterday. This is just that they had to like track their years.
She's picturing like they're making marks in a
like
cave.
Like a mark.
Like day 1, day 2, day
But Jim he's like, they're probably advanced, Lonaiah. And I was like, you know what? They probably were.
I think they were much more advanced.
I never thought about that. You think? Yeah.
By the time of the flood, they were much more advanced than we will ever know.
They could be like how we are today, because the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun, and we think all this is so new and advanced, and maybe it's just not.
I mean, I that's like 1,500 years after Eden.
The Tower of Babel, God said they would succeed.
Yeah, if
they stayed together.
Good point.
Yeah. Well, what did that look like? I don't think that was a 10-story building. Okay, I think that thing was up above the clouds. I mean, if Nimrod
That's
thought he was going to
insane.
go so high, go up that thing
And fight God.
and hit and hunt down God from that thing. I mean, we're not talking about, the Empire State Building. We're talking about something much bigger.
We're not talking about Neanderthals in a cave then
No.
walking there.
And so you think about this. His sons had to find 3 women with none of this tainted Nephilim blood at this point. All right? The warning has already happened.
Right.
God gives the 120-year warning before the flood. The flood comes, Noah's 600. Noah's boys don't start marrying until Noah's 500 plus.
Yeah.
So the world is already mostly populated with Nephilim at that point. Are you hearing what I'm saying? I don't think they'd be able to be very choosy here. Okay?
Might not know.
They didn't ask for the tree before they got married, the genealogy tree.
I'd like to see
Can I
your
see your-
genealogies first.
How-
Your ancestors.
You could probably tell who was Nephilim, who wasn't. But how are they going to find women without Nephilim
they?
blood?
I don't know.
How are they going to find the chances at this point of those sons finding a woman without Nephilim tainted blood are very low. Look, we now, from what the Bible says, we know about Ham.
Yeah, he was.
One of Noah's sons. He wasn't a good guy.
Yep.
Didn't care about Bible prophecy. Didn't care about salvation, and he was a rebel. All right, and just to remind you of this story here. Genesis 9:20 through 29, Noah began to cultivate the ground. This is after he got off the ark. He plants a vineyard, and he tried the wine, became drunk. Verse 21, he was uncovered. He was completely naked in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, glanced at and saw the nakedness of his father and told his 2 brothers outside. So Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it upon his shoulders. The shoulders of both went backward and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, and they did not see their father's nakedness. When Noah awoke from his wine and knew the thing which his youngest son had done to him, this is what he says. He exclaimed, "Cursed be Canaan." Well, Ham's the one that did it.
Right.
He shall be the servant of servants to his brethren. He also said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem," the other son. Blessed by the Lord, my God, be Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. And may God enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. So he's cursing Ham's kid. Noah lived 300.
Think he's the one who gave him the wine?
No, he said
okay.
he sampled the wine from the vineyard.
Oh, okay.
And he lived another
Like,
350
is it
years.
good? I don't know yet.
All the days of Noah were 950 years old. And so why is God cursing Canaan and not Ham? God is cursing the son of Ham. Has anyone ever thought about that? Well, Ryan Pitterson, the author here, believes because Noah had already seen Canaan demonstrating attributes of the Nephilim that came through Ham's wife's side of the family. Remember now, this all goes back to the first scripture that we gave you today where God prophesies to the devil, "I'm going to beat you through a human child."
Mm-hmm.
It's called the seed war, in essence, is what it is. And look at it from the devil's perspective. Why?
It can be a weird concept, but yeah.
That's what's going on.
I understand.
And why was Pharaoh
I'm just.
the leader of the Egyptians, the leader of the empire, a very paganistic, satanic empire? They worshiped demons deep into the occult. It was the empire of their time. Why would Pharaoh have said every Jewish male that's born throw in the Nile River? Because if you eliminate every Jewish male, what happens? The Jewish females have to have children with Egyptians. And so he's trying to taint that blood. Why is it right around the birth of Jesus that Herod had the same type of genocide?
Yep.
Trying to eliminate
Demonic.
what would seem like thousands of Jewish male infants and toddlers. We're talking about, we're looking at it from Satan's point of view. Look at what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
And the first family of the Nephilim, you will find out if you read the book by Ryan Pitterson, Judgment of the Nephilim, is the family of Lamech. Lamech. Lamech was the 7th generation from Adam. Lamech comes from Cain, right, who killed Abel. Now, weirdly enough, in Genesis 4:19 through 24, you have 6 verses out of nowhere dedicated to Lamech's genealogy. This is very odd.
Right.
That's not how these genealogies work. It's always so-and-so begat so-and-so begat so-and-so, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly with Lamech, all right, you've got 6 verses explaining things, right?
Right.
About his wives, about his children. Lamech's family was the first family to initiate the marriages with the fallen angels. And you will see Lamech is the first guy that's a polygamist in the history of the world. All right? This is 7 generations down from Adam. Look it up, Genesis 4:19 through 25. Then you have Lamech. I've never noticed this stuff before. Just look at these verses, Genesis 4:23 and 24. Lamech says to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, you wives of Lamech. Listen to what I say. For I have slain a man merely for wounding me, a young man only for striking and bruising me. If Cain avenged 7-fold, truly Lamech will be avenged 77-fold. First, he's boasting to his wife about killing a man. Then he's mocking God. That's a mock towards God in verse 24. What we just read, he's mocking the grace that God gave Cain. Because God gave Cain grace to protect him when he sent him out.
Yeah.
Right? He marked Cain. And what Ryan Pitterson is saying, there was a transaction between Lamech and the Nephilim of forbidden knowledge for a woman's hand in marriage out of Lamech's family. Lamech was given a form of revolutionary technology. Remember, this is only following 7 generations.
Yeah.
Okay, after Adam. Okay, to give up one of his daughters, okay, to become a wife to the Nephilim. He was given revolutionary technology. Lamech had 3 sons. Jabal, who came up with the invention of tents. Right?
Thanks, Jabal.
Look, back they didn't have that. They didn't necessarily know how to, whatever they would do, stretch the animal skins, how they would come up with that, something mobile. That mobilized everybody.
Yeah.
Okay? If you got a mobile shelter, that means before that, they were living in, fixed places, places they could not move.
Right.
Either they could build or caves. Jabal was also the father of breeding animals. He specialized in breeding animals. And so he invented it, is what it says. It's all in there. Look at verse 20. He's the father of these things. He invented these things. The inventor in the ancient world of these 2 things alone are revolutionary. Think about this. Lamech's other kid, Jubal, is the father of musical instruments.
Jubilee.
That's where Jubilee comes from.
Yeah. Interesting.
Think about that. Didn't Satan have pipes in his original appearance as an angel? You ever read Isaiah saw?
Yeah.
I believe it's in Isaiah. Is giving a picture of Satan before he fell, and he had built-in pipes. Many people thought his big talent was making music because of the way he was constructed as an angel. And look at the power and hold he has on Taylor Swift and
Music
all the
in
music.
general.
And so think about this. Tubal-Cain, the 3rd son, was the father of making weapons through instruments of bronze and iron. He's the first blacksmith.
Wow.
Think about that. Okay, that changed the world.
That changed the world for sure.
When you can shape bronze and iron into something, it's not just weapons.
No, yeah.
So his 3 kids, Lamech's 3 kids, suddenly, out of nowhere, musical instruments, the invention of mobile tents, animal breeding, and the first blacksmith. These are Lamech's 3 kids. All these things are, in that day, are revolutionary.
Yeah.
7 generations from Adam, right? Weapons and iron and bronze, in effect, mobile homes in the tents. No one knew how to put them together at that point, right? Now you can travel because of and so music, as far as the instruments goes, all these things suddenly. And why is the Bible being so descriptive?
Right.
On Lamech's
Right. Yeah.
On Lamech's genealogy. And if you look just out of nowhere in Genesis 4:22, look at Tubal-Cain. Zillah bore Tubal-Cain. He was the forger of all cutting instruments of bronze and iron. The sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah, Naamah. And here's what we're going to leave you wondering, unless you get the book. You see Tubal-Cain has a sister, Naamah. She was the first wife of a fallen angel and the first mother of a Nephilim giant. And we're going to pick up there next week.
It's a lot of information. That is good stuff. Answered a lot of questions I had.
Amazing book.
I didn't know anything about the sons of Lamech, but that's wild.
I mean, that's no attention.
No wonder. What's his bucket?
What's
Nimrod.
his nickel?
What's his nickel?
Nimrod.
Fred.
The son. It was a grandson of Lamech.
Oh yeah.
Because Nimrod comes from Lamech, right?
It's in that book.
So no wonder he had an advantage and was like just
I saw that yesterday when I was trying to help.
Waging war on anyone he wanted to because he
probably didn't have a wooden bow.
Tell you what, it was that's wild. I did not know this.
Yes.
You can order the book on Amazon.
I will be.
Okay, switching to the news.
We got to have this guy come.
Yeah,
do a Wednesday night.
He is really
here at Living
well
Word.
spoken. He's amazing.
Love it.
Okay.
Wow.
So I'm sure by now you guys have heard about the movie The Sound of Freedom. Have you?
I have. Yeah, there is.
You have to see it.
You have to see it.
It's the truth trying to come out.
It is the truth trying to come out. So
it's just the beginning.
So Tim Ballard, the guy who the film is based on, he left his job at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. He was like a year or a few months or a year away from his pension.
Yeah.
And he was talking to his wife about everything he's seen. Isn't this interesting?
Yes.
And he was like, I have to do something about all the human trafficking, the children trafficking, the sex trafficking that I'm seeing. So she's like, you quit your job. I don't care about your pension. Like, let's go save these kids. This was 10 years ago, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been following this guy for 5 years now. And this movie just came out. And the movie in one day, and it beat Indiana Jones or Indiana.
Yep.
Yeah.
On July 4th.
They can't hide it. See, they're trying to hide it.
But yes, they are
the
trying to hide it.
media's trying to put it down.
Yeah.
They're saying it's conspiracy. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's okay, Jim.
Well, looking at the numbers from the first week.
Yeah, they made $40 million.
They were bringing in more tickets sold and more money per theater.
Yeah.
Than Indiana Jones was.
It is. And I have something to tell you because I've watched a few things online. So people are buying their tickets online and the theater is giving them their money back and saying that the theater is sold out and they're showing up anyways and they're not sold out.
Empty.
They're like shutting off the air conditioning in the movie so that it's hot in there.
Some of them, they're turning on the descriptive text for people who are hearing impaired.
Closed captioning.
Yeah. But so you can't hear the rest of the audio.
Yeah, they're trying to sabotage this movie because it's truth.
And they won't turn it off. Yeah, so
the big media outlets. Too, all of them.
I'm getting there. But I watched a few different interviews with Tim Ballard, Jim Caviezel, who plays Tim Ballard in the movie, and the guy who directed the film. So the United States is the #1 sex trafficking of children nation in the world. The place where they get their children from is Mexico. So the guy who is the director is from Mexico, and he is now a citizen of the United States. Yeah. He talked to Tim Ballard like 7 years ago, and he's like, I need to do something to stop this. So I have the link to the interview of one of the interviews on the podcast, but every 20 minutes, a child is taken and stolen, and they're put into sex trafficking. Yeah. So after they're used up, I know this is graphic, but you need to listen because they take kids as young as 1 week old for this, okay? Right. Once the kids are used up, they sell them for organ donations. So this is $150 billion industry, you guys. Jeez. So this explains why they're attacking it. Yeah. So you have Rolling Stone, who wrote that the QAnon-tinged thriller about child trafficking is designed to appeal to the conscience of a conspiracy-addled boomer. So they're basically saying this is a conspiracy theory. This isn't true. Then you have The Guardian saying that's
all they say with everything.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. They're trying to make us sound like conspiracy theorists. So then you have the Washington Post say The Sound of Freedom, the low-budget film about child sex trafficking, almost topped the box office on July 4th. But its star, Jim Caviezel, has linked it to the QAnon movement. So they're trying to just say that this is a QAnon right conspiracy theorist, crazy thing that is a fantasy fit for anybody who believes in any of this crazy stuff.
Don't they link it to the United States government?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
So basically, they're attacking this film. So you had CBS the other day. They did a whole article or a whole like segment on why this film is crazy. But 6 years ago, they ran that thing on Tim Ballard saying how amazing he is and what a great job he's doing. So Maya Flores, who is I think she's a governor in Florida, mayor. I think she's mayor.
She's one of the mayors, yeah.
And along with, who's the guy from Missouri that we love? Josh Hawley.
Yeah.
They started looking into the Biden administration and what they're doing on the border.
Right.
And they have found that there are 85,000 children that have gone missing under the Biden administration over the past 2 years that they can't account for from the border.
Yeah.
So do you wonder why they're attacking all this?
Right.
So who sent me this? I think Daniel sent me this last night. So the Biden Department of Justice quietly removes child sex trafficking content from its website. Earlier this year, they started removing stuff. So the Justice Department website included a page on child sex trafficking. But in the recent months, they've taken out these 3 sections that talk about international sex trafficking of minors, domestic sex trafficking of minors, and child victims of prostitution. And it highlighted that one of the main places where they get these children for sex trafficking is at the border.
Yeah.
But they removed
the
that.
open border.
From the open border.
The
Do you
open
wonder
border.
why we have an open border,
yes,
people?
Yes.
Well, it's interesting. Disney owned the rights to Sound of Freedom. They had the distribution rights since 2018, but they put it on the shelf and they weren't going to release it.
Of course.
And so VidAngel, have you guys ever heard of VidAngel? Mm-hmm. So VidAngel is like the service that you can get a lot of content filtered out from a movie to make sure that your family can watch a movie without
swearing or
the junk,
anything.
So they got sued by a bunch of different studios, whatever. But they're like, well, fine, then we'll go ahead and distribute and make movies that are good for families. So they're the ones who are distributing this movie. They the filmmakers got the rights back from Disney. So Angel Studios which is from VidAngel. They are distributing it. That's another reason why there's a lot of people unhappy about it, is because they're kicking Disney's butt with less money, and so there's a little bit of a faff behind the scenes there.
That is good. But do you know what else is interesting? So during COVID-19, when everything was locked down, Trump was still in office at that time, as before he was out. Do you remember how many articles you would read about them finding hundreds of kids in lockers that were being used for sex trafficking? Like how many times over and over again you found kids, and they would find links and they would find the people who did all that. You don't hear about that anymore.
No.
But I will say the Tim Ballard guy has saved over 10,000 children. He's like, that's not enough, but it's a start.
Yeah.
But I think his ministry is called like the Nazarene Fund.
He did a podcast with Jordan Peterson the other day.
Yes, my dad just sent it to me.
Jordan Peterson and Jim Caviezel.
That one's connected to this
Jim
podcast.
Yeah. So it was
in our information.
It's really interesting, but I mean he's talking about like finding kids in Haiti, and because he was saying that he has interrupted this sex trafficking or this type of activity, both the organ harvesting and the sex trafficking and the slavery, the human slavery. But he's interrupted it and seen it in person.
Yeah, you guys don't forget he was a U.S. Department of Homeland Security worker. He was almost close to his pension, so he was there for a long time, and he switched over to this. I wonder why.
They are saying the U.S. government is behind this, correct?
Yes.
At least connected.
Look at the movie. What's the movie called?
Sound of Freedom.
Check it out, and don't let them tell you it's full. If they tell you the theater is full, go in person.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And they're probably going to turn off the air conditioner.
If there's something going on, talk to them. Don't just leave without making sure your voice is heard. Make sure that the experience is well worth it.
This is good. The beginning of some powerful people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Being brought down, that powerfully sick
yeah,
people.
I'm glad that they're bringing
So,
awareness to this.
Yep.
It's about time. Okay, switching gears though. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but China's neurostrike brain weapons, this is just crazy. So they're developing weapons that can target the brain and are designed to cause cognitive damage and control entire populations. Do you know what they're using? Microwaves and directed energy weapons to fire electromagnetic beams at their enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Microwaves.
Yeah. The U.S. Navy has microwave weapons on multiple ships. Yep.
I'm glad I have one of those EMF things on my microwave.
You're totally safe.
Really?
Like if you're using the microwave at our house, like one of the kids it's a joke, but they'll like come and push you out of the way so that you don't get the like electromagnetic waves.
Save your life.
I'm not worried about that.
Save your life.
I have the blood of Jesus. I don't abuse it, but I'm not going to move out of the microwave. Anyways. Isn't that weird though? Like microwave beams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. But the Chinese military general Sun Tzu wrote in his book, The Art of War, that supreme excellence was to subdue the enemy without fighting. That's their goal.
Yeah.
So he's going to use the electromagnetic.
That's an amazing book.
Yeah.
Have you read it?
The Art of War.
Yes, I've read it, and I just watched a documentary.
Did you?
All day on the Stories channel.
Mm.
On I believe it was Sunday, where they would take his philosophies out of the art of war and apply them to where they were used in different famous battles from the Civil War, Revolutionary War, World War II, all of it. It was so interesting.
Yep.
So interesting. But
okay, that's good. I'll have to check that book out.
Sure, yeah. Be great reading for you, Lonaiah.
As long as there's like historical fiction woven in there, I'm okay.
Well, just watch Mulan.
The guy that wrote that book, he's a genius. He was a military genius, okay, and showed it. History says it. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you guys see that the first press conference with AI, humanoid social robots happened in the United Nations in Geneva the other day?
No.
Okay. So they had a panel of AI-enabled humanoid robots, and they were at this summit in Geneva, which is where the World Economic Forum people meet, okay? That said they could eventually run the world better than humans. That's what these robots are saying. The whole article is just insane because it talks about like the robots like looked on the crowd before it happened, and they're like, there's a weird tension in here, and like their thoughts. But the social robots, that's what they're calling them, said they felt humans should proceed with caution when embracing the rapidly developing potential of artificial intelligence. They admitted that they cannot yet get a proper grip on human emotions, and that's the only difference between them and us. Isn't that crazy? Yep.
Yeah,
so
at this point, no.
Listen,
the
this
crazy
one
part is out the door.
It is, but isn't it it's kind of what we're talking about here? Like a year ago, would you have thought that these robots would be doing press conference talking to people, saying they're going to be? You would have thought.
I've watched those movies many times. You just haven't been watching enough sci-fi, but we've been on it for years.
The devil's
sci-fi.
He's prophesied it. He's prophesied it.
Well, at this press conference, some of the robots were not sure when they would hit the big time, but predicted it was coming. So this one robot said, "My great moment is already here. I'm ready to lead the world to charge to a better future for all of us. Let's get wild and make this world our playground." That's what these robots are saying.
Yeah.
Sketch.
Well, I mean, there is a lot of literature, a lot of fiction that has been written about AI and
just
artificial
not a sci-fi.
intelligence. I know. I'm just saying, like last week we were talking about the reading your mind. And, I mean,
with the glasses, like where you could.
But that like is straight out of like Minority Report. So there's authors that saw this coming and they're like, technology is going to be used. Or do you
think they were little plants and that people gave them information? It was like, write a book on
Daniel
this?
said it when they said they're going to mix themselves with the seed of men.
Right.
And that's the 10-nation confederation right before the Antichrist. And so it'll be a dark world when this happens. But I think we're going to be merged. They're already saying it. We've already said all this. By 2030, there won't be normal humans. It'll all be hybrid humans.
Can I say something about the 2030? So my F1 is like really big in our house. My boys are obsessed with it. And Jeremiah is too. I'm a fan. But in the background, it said net zero 2030. And all the backgrounds of everything you saw of any driver, anything that was happening, it was like, and I said, oh my gosh, look what that says. And Wrigley's like, that just means, Mom, that they're going to, because they like travel from like here. Yes. Yeah. Subliminal messaging.
It is subliminal messaging.
Even on the F1
2030
world.
is the big year.
It is.
I believe that's the I can't just go that far. I believe it'll be way gone. Long
gone. I believe I would believe it too.
Would have happened quite a while before that. That's as far as I'll go to say.
I believe it.
Yes.
Well, so speaking of globalists, they're making really big moves. We talked about the QR code last week. So this Leo Human guy who does blogs is like always on it. So the globalists are making really big moves, which would fundamentally change how our society operates. I know he keeps saying this, but you have to listen to this because this is like their main goal, and they're talking about it now. So he says the globalists are making absolutely enormous moves. Previously, he has written about the UN's New World System for cracking down on misinformation and about their desire to implement a global system of digital identification that's tied to our banks. But this goes beyond that. So this is called a unified ledger. So basically, the unified ledger takes your bank accounts, your credit cards, your house, your real estate, your bonds, your stocks, etc., everything, and it puts it into one thing that they can track all of it.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's on a programmable platform that they're in charge of. Is that crazy? This is what so it's called a unified ledger. Yeah. Everything is in one spot. So the ownership of everything is in one spot, and if they don't like you, they just take it all away from you. One little click of a button. But we're going to end on two really good notes here. So
I'm glad to hear that.
This is from Jeremiah. He sent this to me last night. So Ray Epps, remember we've spoken about Ray.
We've spoken.
Our Jeremiah.
Jerry. All right,
our JD.
JD.
Jerry's a fan. All right.
I hope he's a fan. Okay. So he said that Ray Epps is to be criminally charged for events that took place on January 6th.
We'll see.
Hey,
I know.
This is from his attorney.
Yeah.
Who?
That's good news. Ray Epps, remember? Attorney. The guy who was a plant.
Oh.
Well,
supposedly.
That connects to some other things that have been going on in Congress right now where Christopher Wray is answering questions about whether or not the FBI had plants.
Well, there's a lot going on there right now because I watched some things where they're trying to convict Biden of funneling money to Ukraine illegally, and the guy couldn't answer the question, and he kind of got caught in a pickle where he basically says, yeah, that's what's happening right now.
I just think that by the time we get here in, 2024? When is the vote?
Yeah, 2024.
Presidential.
Next year, next fall.
2024 November. It doesn't matter if they're cheating. It's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be overwhelming. They're going to get ousted.
People,
Yes, they're going to get ousted. Even if
people's eyes are going to have to be
I think it's going to be overwhelming. Because all this stuff is just leaking and leaking and leaking and the same thing. It's a conspiracy, and that's a conspiracy,
right?
And that's a conspiracy.
But I have something to say that's funny about the voting and fraudulent voting. So, I was watching the All-Star game with my kids, and during one of the commercials, it was like MasterCard. We are trying our best to protect fraudulent votes for what's the All-Star game ballots. And we stopped so many fraudulent votes from taking place. And I thought they're worried about the All-Star game votes and the guys who got in. So that tells you that there is fraudulent voting on everything if they're blatantly saying it on a MasterCard commercial for the All-Star game.
Right.
What last one? This is good news. This is from Chris, who's having baby number 5 next week.
Hey, congratulations.
Yes, Chris and his wife.
Congratulations, Chris.
5 babies under the age of, I think he said 4.
Yeah.
Oof. Anyways, the federal court smacks down on the Satanic Temple.
Okay, you can't give his last name. I want to see his last name.
Okay, I'll show it to you when we get back.
Yeah.
For satanic abortion rituals, remember how the Satanic Church was saying that because of the new laws of abortion, it went against their religious rights because they weren't allowed to sacrifice children anymore? Well, the federal court says no. Like, that's not approved. You cannot sacrifice children religiously and use that to protect yourselves against this law.
Good.
So that is good news out of Arizona. That is good news. He sent me
Arizona, they're still under the microscope for
They
sure.
are. They are.
Good for Arizona.
And you know, Lonaiah and I were talking. I don't think we'll have these articles on there. You were probably thinking about next week. Maybe we want to put them on next week if we talk about this. But California.
Oh yeah.
California, they've passed a law. We'll give more details on it next week. But what
where
was
they
it?
side with pedophiles.
Yeah.
It's SB 114.
But not the one that hasn't passed. They're trying to pass one where if a child consents to having sex.
Yes,
then
at any age.
At any age, down to the age of 2.
Yep.
You don't have, you can't be prosecuted. All right, that's what they're trying to do out there.
Yeah.
And
I don't think that's the only state.
Is they call that the Sunshine State?
Yeah.
In the darkest state in the union, and I'm one to talk because Minnesota's right behind them.
Minnesota is.
But what's the thing that they did pass? They did pass.
So if you're a pedophile and you got convicted of multiple rapes or
instances,
you were not charged how you should be charged. They went against, so there was like survivors in there who were telling their stories, explaining how they got raped multiple times by these pedophiles. But the laws protect the pedophiles over the victims.
We're going to hit you with more details on that next week.
I can just link that article because it's
then let's tell them how are they protecting them.
Well, okay, we'll do that next week.
Yeah,
then.
we got to say how they're protected because, look, we're sitting here saying, they're going to protect the pedophiles, and we've been saying that for a while. Changing the language, they're not even calling. They don't want them called pedophiles anymore.
Minor attracted persons is what they're trying to say.
Okay, but you know this whole thing about if a child consents and it's actually a bill, it's they're trying to make it a law.
Right.
All right, I guarantee you, in a year, right. We won't be so surprised. Like right now we're going, wow, that's in the United States. There's a place in the United States there's actual people that are thinking about this. Wait for a year.
Yeah.
Just watch what happens in 1 year. Okay.
Yeah, a bill signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom leaves the decision whether individuals convicted of particular sex crimes involving minors must register as sex offenders. They don't have to register as sex offenders anymore.
This is just the beginning.
So you don't know. Remember how in Minnesota you used to be able to put in your address and see how many sex offenders?
Right.
Well, we don't do that anymore here. And they don't do that anymore in California. You don't have to put it on your record. They protect you.
They hide them.
Yep, it was SB 145. It shields pedophiles who rape children from having to register as sex offenders.
But the one that they're trying to push through, all right, that is right. This isn't conspiracy, right?
No, it's not.
There's been a bill introduced
where
if the child consents, then you're not breaking the law.
Yep.
And so that's where it's going in this
and do you wonder
illustrious
why
country. And
they're trying to get rid of the Sound of Freedom movie and make it sound like it's crazy?
And I do have to say, it's mostly Democrats.
Yes.
But there are, interestingly enough, Republicans that have voted for these things or supporting these things. Yeah. And it's probably, in my opinion, because they have something on them.
Right.
Yeah, I was telling Jim this morning, there's this Republican woman, and she's like, everything in my body wanted to say no, but I found myself with my hand raised. Why?
Because they have something on her, or
and if you don't believe they have
some sort of leverage,
and if you don't believe they have something on it, didn't you? What was the podcast you did where you talked about like communist infiltration and the?
I mean, that. But I'm
saying that was just
that hasn't gotten a lot of traction, but you really see how crooked our government is. All right.
I don't know that I believe that hasn't got a lot of traction. I feel like they keep the numbers down because if it goes too high, it starts to go into other algorithms. So I think that's why they keep certain numbers.
They want that one
of
down.
Podcasts. Yeah, because that episode was mind-boggling.
Yeah, it was Trevor Loudon.
Yes,
from Epic Times.
Yep, Jim did that one alone, but it was. I thought about that. Yeah, there was proof upon proof upon proof. Chinese food.
MSG made me do weird.
3 straight days.
Ugh.
Probably 3,500 calories a day, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, each day of nothing
High
but
sodium.
Yeah.
Chinese takeout. And I woke up and I'm like, I feel like I'm not really
Jeremiah's like, you just look tired. Isn't that what he's told you?
seeing myself clearly. So, do I really look like this?
Cucumbers on the ice. Is that
I
what you
tried
tried?
it all. I tried it all.
Cold cream.
None of it worked. So
Get some preparation H. and
I
just-
no, it's not. It's
Would
not
that
preparation
work?
H. It's
Suck up
hemorrhoid cream.
would that
That's
work?
what preparation H
Oh,
is.
okay.
Would
All
that
right.
work?
Well, it like
Well, not anymore,
It
Jim.
fills in the wrinkles. It makes everything.
Okay, you know what, you guys? Do you remember when I said to put a cold water bottle on the back of your neck and I got corrected? Now John's telling people to put preparation H under their eyes.
I'm
and
not
Jim's like-
telling
and Jim's
anyone.
like, really? That'll help? Like,
No,
I said a water
I am
bottle
not-
and I got a text.
I am
and
not
Jim's over
telling-
here considering.
I know
Hemorrhoid cream
people
for his
who
eyes.
have
My eyes,
said
okay.
that. I'm not recommending it.
Okay, talk
Does
to
it
your
look like I'm
doctor.
using preparation
No,
H on my
John.
eyes?
Yes, you look quite well. You look like a 9 in my book. Listen, on a scale of 1 to 10. Thank you so
5
much.
being
Listen,
average.
I want to thank our 1,800 subscribers. We're up over 18.
Woo.
So thank you for subscribing.
But that's only on YouTube.
Yeah,
there
there's
are
so much
many
more.
other. Come on.
So
yes,
much more.
18 on YouTube
Shout
alone.
out to the
Right.
the podcasters
Everywhere.
and the
Yeah,
7
all you
people on Rumble.
listeners.
the 7 people on Rumble.
No. Rumble has more.
How many?
And on
I
Apple,
don't know,
on
but-
Apple Podcasts and Spotify together, about 1,200. Right.
Yeah, and then
Apple pie
Facebook's
sounds
got
delicious.
100.
So, listen.
Thank you, everybody.
We appreciate you.
Yes.
We appreciate you, and we're never going to stop, right? We're never
Can't
going to
stop,
stop.
won't
I feel like that's like an oath statement for
I
Jim
know.
every week.
We're never stopping.
Like if he says it publicly enough times, it's,
if we stop, we've been raptured. That's
Or we've been
we're
in jail.
firebombed.
We're in
Well,
jail.
jail for what?
By
Oh,
the,
like
by the
this?
Ministry of
Truth.
yeah.
We'll sneak a phone in.
Yeah.
I promise I
podcast.
will.
What
Run
will
away.
you do?
Okay. Okay.
I am going to be a resistance fighter. I will not go to jail.
Just Red Dawn. Lonaiah has Red Dawn in her.
Yeah, I
in her
do.
jeans.
Yeah, I do.
Oh well, didn't end well for them. Okay.
I don't know.
I will not give anything away while
Freedom
they're
fighters, they-
ripping off my fingernails. That's what they do in those things. Have you read
Do a
those
lot,
books?
A lot worse than that one.
I know. I was just keeping it low key for our listeners.
I'm reading a book on the Christian Crusades, historical fiction.
Yeah.
But the most famous crusade is the Third Crusade, where they had Richard the First,
Mm-hmm.
and the things both sides did to prisoners, you can't even imagine.
Well,
Can't
you
even,
can.
and it was just normal.
You guys,
was
we
just
went to London a couple years ago, and we went to the tower, like
Yeah,
this, like
Tower of
the
London.
Tower of London.
Yeah.
And the torture chamber things that they had in there were just you would read it, and they would like have this thing where your limbs just got. My
Yeah.
kids were reading it, and they're like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is
You know-
real stuff."
You know,
What?
animals. Like, isn't it interesting? Isn't man how they treat
Yeah.
each other? The animals don't do that.
No.
Animals aren't gonna.
No.
Very, very rarely, right? I
Right.
mean,
No,
is an animal gonna
it's
do something?
sick.
Even just kill just to kill? A lot of animals. There's a few that do.
Yeah.
The few animals kill just to kill, right?
Yeah.
But they don't torture them.
No,
Right? They don't torture. Only the human race
Basically.
tortures.
Well, doesn't a spider like roll you up and leave you there for
Yeah,
a
but
while?
that's for food storage.
Yes, just to keep you fresh.
torture.
No.
You're just a little fly, like waiting. When am I gonna die? Like Charlotte's Web, just stuck.
Yeah.
On that note,
Anyway, we have 84 followers on Rumble.
Oh, 84. Hey, Rumblers.
Don't forget to subscribe on Rumble, because if anything ever happens on the YouTube channel, Rumble's going to be where you have to find us.
yes,
Yes.
she should
You should
subscribe now to Rumble.
I'm going to do that right now.
Because we've had one episode yanked. You will not be able to find episode 55.
No, you can find it on Rumble, though.
On Rumble,
Yes.
you can.
Yeah. And so YouTube yanked it. If you'd like to see that, go to Rumble. And you can see why they yanked it, I guess. But
It was about one of the
Fascist.
one of the subjects we talked about towards the end of this episode.
But listen, God bless you guys. You're in my prayers every day. Final Hour Podcast viewers, subscribers, and listeners. And if you don't think you can name a people group like that and get everyone covered, you need to read the prayers in Ephesians 1 and Ephesians 3. God bless you. Have a great week. Thank you so much.